Ministry a lot of times looks different than what we expect it to look like. It can look like getting into fixing up of facilities and properties for a ministry context, and then taking that ministry out into the world to build a real estate business. Our guest today is going to talk to us about how he found his ministry in service in church and has built out a business just using what God has given him. Listen, for anyone who might doubt what I have is too simple, it doesn't look like what other people talk about in ministry, this episode is for you so that you can figure out how what you can do can serve and build a business. Let's go.
Welcome to the Monetize Your Ministry podcast.
And you get a chance to interact with them. To me, that's full-time ministry.
That I have to, because tax without Jesus is like a thief. It brings in itself and then it opens.
I want to provide content and things that are going to help change lives, and I simultaneously want to receive a blessing from that.
Now here's your host, Kymone Hinds.
All right, welcome back to another episode of the podcast. You know how we do it here. Make sure, first of all, that you've shared this podcast with someone, because this is always going to help someone to get clarity on what you're supposed to be doing and how to do more of it, which means monetize it. So they have the freedom, they have the space, they have the ability to make greater impact. Today, I'm super excited. This is the first time I'm getting to do this, to interview someone who I've had the opportunity to pastor. And so I want to introduce to you all today our guest, Mr. Gifford Fleming, all the way from Memphis, Tennessee. Gifford, welcome to the podcast.
Hello. Good to be here. Can't believe I'm on with the great Kymone Hinds.
That's funny. I get to be on with the great Gifford Fleming. So let me give you all a little bit of background. Gifford is a husband. He's a father of two wonderful young adults. I was going to say teenagers, but they have stopped being teenagers a long time ago. Wonderful wife, Angela. Gifford is also an island man. He's from the U.S. Virgin Islands. And where Gifford and I connected is I pastored a church in Memphis, Tennessee. Got there, and one of the first people that I met was Gifford, actually, and his family. And I'll tell you a little bit more of some of our conversations. But Gifford, just good to have you on here. And I want to just thank you, because some of the words that you shared are part of what helped to frame my thinking that created this podcast. So good to have you on.
Good to be here. You know, I've been following your podcast, that it's just been doing great things. I just want to thank you for creating this type of platform to get a message out about monetizing your ministry. You know, I just hope I just don't bring your ratings down today, you know.
No. We're going through the roof with this one. Yep. So Gifford, I want to start off by asking you this. Ministry. When you hear the word ministry, what is the word picture? What's the definition that comes to your mind?
Yeah, two things. You're right. You know, doing God's work and helping others. You know, so that's why I look at it. It's keeping it simple, right? I mean, just doing what He asks us to do while you're helping others and bringing them closer to God, right? That's ministry. Meeting people where their needs are.
That's good. So Gifford, you've always, and I'm using always in a very broad way, you've always been involved in church. You've always been, you grew up in a very religious and a background of, because I know your parents, people who love God and love people. That's the definition of what when I interact with your parents. But going back to leaving the Virgin Islands and talking about career, because this is going to really connect with someone when we talk about career and calling. What was the influence from your father in terms of what he wanted you to study and what he wanted you to do in terms of work? Sure.
Well, so as you said earlier, I grew up in the Virgin Islands, St. Thomas to be exact, the best island, right? Other than Trinidad, I'm just kidding.
Here we go.
But my father was a builder, construction, and I grew up doing that, right? Always out working with him, and as you know, building in the islands is physical work, right? You know, building houses. So came a time for me to go to college. You know, I just wanted to do something different. Of course, my father had other plans. He wanted me to be an architect, come back and work with him. But knowing my father, all those years of him being the boss, he treated me just like an employee, right? And so we were always clashing. So, I wanted to go somewhere where I can, chart my own course, right? And so I came to Memphis to go to school. So I wanted to do engineering, computer engineering, and biomedical engineering. But I had to convince my dad that, hey, computers, it's in order to be an architect now, you got to learn computers and you have to do that. So, I might come back around to architecture. So he said, okay, no problem. But, I had no intention of going back. But I came here, and I'm going to school, completed my degree in engineering, started working for, Fortune 500 company. And, just charting my course for my career.
Yeah.
And
I want to jump in here. So,
sure.
So Gifford, you kind of give your dad the slip on that one. Told him you're going to come back.
Yeah.
I hear you. I need to, as you know, and some of the viewers know, my son and my kids are all off at college now. None of them have made the promise to come back and work with me. But if they did, I would know that that probably is not the truth, right?
Exactly. But
now,
again,
part of the story is also you now coming here, going to college, but then also becoming a part of a church. And that's the church that you and I were part of at the same time. So Gifford, here it is. You get to Memphis, you're a college student, and you connect with this church. Tell us about, how you connected with this church and how you got involved. You're off to college, you're in a whole new country. Well, but how did you kind of get involved with this church, and what did this church mean to you at that stage of life?
Yeah, coming from the Virgin Islands, I mean, church was a big part of our lives, and I just wanted to join a church where you had that family atmosphere, and I definitely found it at that church, right? As you well know, because since you came to pastor there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just got involved right away in all parts of ministry, whether it's being a deacon, singing in the choir, working with the youth. Just did everything that they asked me to do. I just wanted to volunteer and be a part of ministry, just be part of the church.
Yeah.
But then came a time where I'm sorry.
Now I was going to give a shout out to the church, the Overton Park Seventh-day Adventist Church in Memphis, Tennessee. Got to give a shout out to that church, to the wonderful members, and just the family that church is for so many people. Like when you get there, you're not just a member, you're family.
OP.
Yes, sir.
When you come to Memphis, come to visit.
Absolutely. So here it is. You're involved in different parts of ministry, and there's a ministry that we're going to get to. But I want to just say this. Talk about just the mindset, right? For a lot of people, we want to know what's my thing, right? So I want to figure out, and this is for work, this is for church, what's my thing I should do? But it sounds like one of the approaches that you took that kind of came with you even from your background is, I want to get involved in different things. I want to test out. I want to do a few things just to see what I'm good at, what I like doing, how I can help. Let's kind of talk about that mindset, first of all, of trying out, getting involved in different things.
Yeah, and you kind of hit it on the head there, Pastor. When you go to college and you're trying to determine, your path, sometimes you just don't know what's the right path, right? I mean, a lot of college students are undecided.
Yeah.
So I always tell people that the church is a good opportunity to try different things from a career standpoint, right? I always say, anything you want to do, any career path, any business you might want to start, the best testing ground is a church. The beauty of that is that you're doing it while you're doing ministry at the same time as well. Right? So that's what I did. I tried different avenues, different things to see what my skill sets, what my interests were. And I tell people all the time, no matter what field you might want to go into, or even if you don't know, just try it in the church. I mean, if you want to get into business, try to sit on the church board or the finance committee, right? You want to be a nurse or a doctor, there's the health department within the church as well. You want to be a teacher? Well, teach Sunday school or Sabbath school. Work with the youth. I mean, just any avenue or any career you think you want to go into, there's an opportunity to test it out and get some free training at church, right, while you're doing ministry.
Yeah. It's so interesting you say that, right? Career path. We talk about, this is the Monetize Your Ministry podcast. Our guest today is Gifford Fleming. That same church was the place that my son got involved in working with technology, right? He was, probably 12, 13 years old, and our youth leader, who was also our AV leader, brought him upstairs. We had just got some new equipment, and he put him on there to record the sermons and to put stuff up on the screens. And now it's interesting that his career, his major, first of all, was film and media. Now it's his minor, and he's doing computer networking as his major. But to your point, his first experience with that stuff was not, on a job somewhere. It was right there in that church. It allowed a 12-year-old boy to use equipment that was thousands of dollars, right? Like, a lot of places will not let you do that because they know if you break it, we can't pay for it. You don't have the experience. Where's your resume? The church is like, hey, go try it. We'll let you make mistakes in a live setting, and we'll be okay with it.
That's so amazing that we have that ability, but sometimes we have to change people's perspective, right? Because a lot of people, as you know, sometimes it's difficult to get people to serve in some of these positions at church because it's all volunteer on a volunteer basis. You're not being paid for it. But if we change their perspective and their mindset, that hey, you might not think that you're getting paid now, but just like with Jaden or myself or anyone else, you can turn this training, this service, this ministry into a career path for you, right?
That's right.
And you might not see it now, but it'll be you'll reap those blessings later on.
Maybe we need to
start. The beauty of it all is that it is, right? It is an internship for God at the same time, right?
Yeah.
So that's perfect with this platform that you're doing here, monetizing your ministry. We don't see that benefit when we're volunteering for these positions. Even though we know it's God's work, it's still, it sometimes, especially in a small church, it can seem like work. But if you really change people's perspective, maybe it will help people to volunteer even more and try these different departments because they know they can help them to decide a career path or a business opportunity. Not that you're doing it for that, but that's the benefit that's hidden in there that you can reap the rewards of that later on.
Right. So Gifford, let me frame this way, because this is where I want to get to. I remember as a pastor, I'm like, man, Gifford is such a great guy. I want Gifford to be an elder. And in our setting, the elder is sort of like a local pastor, a lay pastor, right? So I'm like, Gifford, I want you to be an elder, man. I think you'd be great at this. You're a great leader. Everyone, you're able to bring people together. I mean, first of all, Gifford, I just really admire you as a person. So I wasn't just blowing up smoke. I was like, I really thought you'd do good. And this is what you said to me. You said, this is my ministry, right? Facilities. Yeah. This is my ministry. And you were really clear that was your ministry. And for a lot of people, we look at ministries as the out front stuff. We look at the stuff with a mic in your hand, right? We look at ministry as the people who get on the stage. But you looked at facilities as a ministry. Sure. Answer this one, and then we'll go back to where that started, right? But how can people see things like facilities, like working on renovations and repairs? I mean, that's not like for some people, that's like that. You don't need the Spirit of God for that, but maybe you do. Like, talk to us about how you were able to see taking care of the facilities as a ministry.
Yeah. It goes back to what you said before, right? I mean, I realized that I wasn't doing this for me.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing it because this was God's house, his facility. Yeah, I wanted someone when they come to a place of worship that we're able to put our best foot forward, right? I mean, and so I wanted to make sure we had a facility that would be pleasing in God's sight, right?
Mm-hmm.
And by doing that, that was my motivation. And the more I did it, I realized that I was good at it, number one, but I was able to touch a lot of different departments, right? And by doing that, I realized that, you know, this is the best way that I can affect, you know, God's ministry by doing it through that medium there. So yeah, it was. I love it. Yeah,
I love that. You said, man, I'm good at this, and this is the way I can help people best. And that's what we've been talking about, is our definition of ministry here. So Gifford, this church, Overton Park, was in Overton Park, Memphis, right? But then they moved to the North Memphis area, right? Or
we did.
And bought a facility. And this is where this part of, and those of you watching this, you want to hear this story because it connects both the monetize and ministry side. You guys bought a building, and the building was in great condition when you first bought it, right?
Yeah.
It was great. But talk to us about what was happening. The building stayed there apparently for some time, and just kind of talk us through your getting involved in the rehabilitation of that facility.
Yeah, sure. You know, so when we bought that facility, it was about opportunity, right? Being able to move to a different area, get a larger facility for growth, right? And that was awesome. But me, you know, I was seeing it as, man, that's a lot of work, you know, because the building was in disrepair. It has a lot of potential from a growth standpoint, but I knew what it was going to take to get it to the standards that would be required. And so for me, I don't know if I was thrilled to move to that facility, because I know a lot of it was going to fall on my shoulders. Even if we weren't doing the work, I know I was going to be having to coordinate with a lot of contractors and vendors and trying to get up that facility in good shape. But so I know it's going to require a lot of my time. But moving forward, we actually sat there for about 3 years, you know, trying to generate the funds to do a full remodel of the facility and the sanctuary. And it just looked like most churches. I mean, we were trying to raise the money. It just wasn't getting there quick enough. The Lord was blessing for sure, but it just wasn't to the speed that was required to get us up and going. And just knowing me from my background, I said, you know, there's something we can do. So one evening, you know, after the program, I just went over to the sanctuary side, and me and a few members just started tearing stuff down and start tearing the walls down and start taking stuff off walls and, you know, just taking up carpet and just moving things around. And before you know it, you know, it turned into a full-fledged program, right? I mean, where we were actually doing all the work ourselves.
Wow.
You know, and you didn't realize all the skill sets that were there at that church until we decided to do ministry, right? So the skill sets were hidden there. Even some members that didn't have the skill set, they were able to learn some of the skill sets there because we were able to teach them as well, right?
Wow.
And I mean, I was just talking to a member 2 days ago, and a female member, and she did a lot of work at a church, and she called me because she was renovating her own kitchen with her own hands.
Wow.
And she called me to let me know that the work that we did back at the church gave her the confidence that she was able to renovate her own kitchen, right? And so you pick up those skill sets there while you're doing ministry that can benefit you later on, right? Whether you're doing your own work.
Gifford, how old were you doing this? Because you told me before we started this that you started college at 17. So You're young,
Yeah.
coming over, joining
Yeah.
the church. Like, what age range? You could tell us, 20s, 30s. How old were you doing this?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Well, when I started working, I came at 17 and was a deacon right away at that age.
But I'm saying this
But we
building
started
project.
that new building project, I was 24, maybe 24. Yeah. So,
Gifford, I mean, sorry. I had to ask
yeah.
you this because I knew you were young at that time. But now when
Mhm.
you tell me the age, can you imagine at 24 years old, you're again in another, away from home, but you've found this church community, you finish your college career, you had work, but this now becomes the thing that you are leading. Because maybe you're not realize you're leading, everyone's following you, right? You're the one
Yeah.
saying we're doing this, right? You and some others, you're saying we're doing this, and people are following you doing this, and you're 24 years old. So to me now, this is amazing that you're employing skills and also leadership ability, and you're developing as a leader while doing ministry.
And that's the key. I didn't see myself as a leader. Right?
Ooh.
I just thought I was doing God's work and making it happen, not understanding that God was just setting me up to lead at that time, which, as I told you earlier, I parlay that into many things that we'll talk about. But even in my career path, right, I became a leader in my career path. A lot of those skill sets came from that project, right? Because I didn't see myself as a leader until I had to step out and get that work done. So I'm now able to share that and help others see their path and see what they can do just through ministry.
Yeah. So you guys started this building project, and everyone's putting all hands are on deck, right? Who is not doing something, you're bringing food, right? You're coming around encouraging people. How many years does it take before? Yeah, how many years before it now has a grand opening? How long does this project last?
I would say about 3 years.
Wow. 3 years
of tears.
Yeah, weekends, after work. I mean, just like people just giving themselves.
I would leave my job, go there after work, don't leave there until 2 o'clock in the morning, right? Just labor of love. No, and again, it wasn't just me, it was other members as well. And that's what made it so gratifying, right? Because everyone had the same mission, the same vision, and that was to build a sanctuary and an edifice that would glorify God, right? Yeah. And so everyone just put all the egos aside and was able to band together to get that project done. So it was very rewarding, very rewarding. So we were able to parlay that into a big grand opening. A lot of the conference members came down, and they were just amazed to see what we were able to do with our own hands, and the members coming together to do that. They looked at it and said, "Well, this looks like a facility that was done by contractors, right?" Yeah. They couldn't believe that we came up with the designs, ordered all the materials, everything was done by our own hands. So very rewarding. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So this is what's funny to me. You told me this, and I don't know if you remember what you said. You said, as soon as I was done with this project, I told myself, I'm going to do what now? What was the thing? If you don't remember, I'll remind you. But what did you do as a pivot right after that project was done?
Yeah, and while going through that project, my mind started thinking, right? I mean, wow, this was so gratifying and so beneficial. As soon as that project was over, I said, hey, I did this for God, and it was very blessing, a big blessing. But now I'm going to do it for myself, right? And I promise God, if you bless me here, I'm gonna share with others and do that. So I immediately translated that experience into monetizing that ministry for myself, right? So
yes. Gifford's trying to be humble. Gifford is a real estate mogul. He's a mogul. He's a real estate mogul. And listen. And in this podcast, one of the good things we do is we celebrate people's success, because, as you talked about, this is not success that comes at the expense of serving. It's not at the expense of mission and purpose. It's success that comes because you're serving and because you're pursuing your mission and purpose. So you went from taking a facility that needed work, right? And yes, we can go down the list of skill sets, right? There is putting together the plans, organizing the team. There is managing a budget. There's so many more skills that you can probably list out here. But you took those skills that you discovered as your ministry. And remember now, you were supposed, your dad told you, come on back, we'd be doing this. But now because of this, now you pivoted to getting involved in real estate. So talk about because a lot of people who are interested, watch this podcast, we know real estate is a way to build wealth and to pass that wealth on down and to accumulate that wealth. Talk about getting that first property, because a lot of us, we're itching to get in the game. We got our home, but we know we should be investing. Talk to us about getting that first property and how the skills you acquired, how you use that now in this next process.
Sure. As I said earlier, I call this my Jonah experience, right? I was running away from that type of work, and God ran me right into the teeth of this business, right? And so, yes, the minute we finished there, I knew right away what I wanted to do, right? So yes, I decided to, start my own real estate company and purchase properties. Very first property I purchased, just like anything else. I mean, you were scared when you signed those loan papers, trying to get that property. But I knew that God blessed me in that ministry, and He wasn't going to leave me out here alone. So I knew it was a work of God. So I took the chance to go out and start doing that.
Talk about the first property. Was it like the house was, everything was there when you got there? Was it like perfect condition, or was it more similar, right? Not probably the same, but had any similarities to how the church building looked when you first got it?
No doubt, it was a foreclosure.
Ooh.
And so but that didn't scare me, right? Because of what we just did.
Wow.
So I was able to go in and it changes. Something like that would scare a lot of people off. Oh, that's too much work. But because of what we just did, I was able to have a different perspective, view it differently, because I know the possibilities, just like we did with the church, right? And so, for me, it was not a challenge. I saw what the potential in that building was, and just like I did at the church, I just wanted to work right away. Starting out, of course, you did a lot of work yourself, right? And the same thing I did at the church. I would leave work, go to that property, stay there till 2:00 in the morning. My wife would be calling and say, where are you? And it wasn't the best neighborhood at first, right?
Yeah.
But I wasn't even thinking like of seeing that, right? Thinking back at it now, I'm like, man, that was crazy. But
yeah.
But I would leave that 2:00 in the morning and just put that labor in there, and you just start branching off from there, and move on to the next property and the next property and the next property, and it just grew from there, right? But God blessed. But the beauty of all of that, though, is that today, as I said, I promise God, if I'm blessed here, I'm gonna always share with others. That's why I'm appreciative of being on this podcast, so we can share with others. But that's what I do. I share how to get into the real estate business. How to turn that into different revenue streams, and definitely coach a lot of people in that and get them going into that area. So that itself is a blessing and rewarding as well. So
Gifford, you said it. Your ministry started off in the church. It moved out to where you were fixing up homes. And listen, you fixing up homes, allowing people to live there even as rent, that's still a ministry, right? There's touching of lives there. But now you are expanding by teaching other people how to get into real estate. And over the next, let's say, 10 minutes of this podcast, Gifford, we're going to pick your brain for free, because somebody on here wants to know how to get into real estate. Give us maybe three tips, the Gifford Fleming tips for getting involved in real estate. We want to get our first property. What should we do? Where should we look? Should we look in a nice neighborhood? What's some things to look for if we're going to get into monetizing our ministry using real estate?
Yeah, so the old adage in real estate, it never changes, right? Location, right? And so it's all about what you want to get out of it. So you have to do your homework.
Okay.
It's easy to say, hey, I just want to go and jump into real estate and start doing that. I say, you should study it. Do your homework first, right? That's the first thing, really doing your homework. And
what does that mean? Yeah.
You have, I tell people all the time, before you do anything, and not just in real estate, but anything in life, you should have a plan. You should write it down. And I call it the rounds in a ladder, right? You can't get from here to the top of a ladder without touching every round, right? So write those things down and touch every round in that ladder. And before you know it, you can get to your goal, right?
Okay.
So whatever that is, you put a plan together, whether it's location, financing, whether you need to renovate it, depending on what type of revenue stream you're looking for, if it's going to be a rental property or a flip, it just depends on your means of revenue. Whatever your plan calls for, then you execute it from that standpoint. So the biggest factor is putting a plan in place.
Okay. I'm writing it down, Gifford, because I'm getting my ladder. I'm getting my ladder, right? So location. All right. So
rounds in the ladder.
Yeah. So location. When you say do your homework, what am I doing? Am I getting a realtor? Am I going on some website? How am I looking for a good location? And when I say good location, right, I'll just be transparent. My wife and I might be looking to get into one of these. And one of the back and forth conversations we have is I'm saying we not living in that, right? So we don't need a location that we like. We just need a location that we can afford. But talk to us about this. And I want this episode to be real practical for somebody.
For sure. For me, right, I think down the road, right, if it's, let's say it's a rental, and that's what I think what you're talking about. I think about, when I think about location, you have to understand that where that property is located. That's the type of clientele that you will draw to that location as well, right?
Right.
With that comes different types of problems, right? A different type of issues that you might have to take into consideration, right? It might in certain neighborhoods, there's other blight. There might be crime. Then there are other neighborhoods where the neighborhood might be transitioning, right? They're going to more rentals, and so you have to understand that as well. That it depends on how long you tend to be in that location, that you might have to address those concerns as well, right? So all those things should be part of your plan. It should be part of your consideration when you're trying to think about getting into real estate. And I always, again, the more you plan, the more research you do, the more understanding you have, the better decision you will make when it comes to that. Because no matter how you spend it, it's still an investment, right? Everyone wants a good return on their investment. I don't care if it's real estate or the stock market or whatever you're investing in. You have to make sure that you do enough homework to understand how that will impact your investment.
So it sounds like you got to look at the location, how things are now, but also how things are going to be in the future.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. And again, it also depends on what you're trying to do, right? You might be able to fix it up, flip it, sell it. You're getting out of there. That's a consideration, right? If you know you're going to be renting it, have to deal with tenants, or have to get a management company to get tenants in that location. That's a whole other set of considerations as well. And so it just depends on what you want to do. And I, my son right now is trying to he's starting to go that route as well. So I'm in
the family business, huh?
Well. In the family business, yeah. But he's I tell him all the time, the beauty of real estate to me is that there's no hard and fast rule. It just depends on what you want to get out of it, right?
That's good.
Sure, there's some pitfalls that you want to definitely look out for and avoid those. But in general, you're your own boss now. You control. No one can make you buy that property
Ooh.
here, or you determine what you want to get out of it, and set your plan according to that, right? So, just because I did it this way, that don't mean that's the only way, right? In my case, when I started, like I went down the foreclosure routes, right? Where I will purchase it for, let's use some figures. So I purchased it for $30,000.
Right.
But because I studied that area, I knew the house was worth $75,000, right?
Right.
So right away, I had $45,000 equity in the house already.
Right.
So for me, my plan was different.
And Gifford Fleming is our guest today. He's telling us
I
about how he learned ministry, of this form of ministry, really from his father, right? Like this is part of what it was in his family growing up. But then also now here's Gifford serving at a church, doing different things, and finding a problem. Here's the problem. We have this new facility. We can't occupy it for worship because it needs to be renovated. And Gifford and others led out in the renovation of that. And after that, it helps him to now figure out, how can I take these skill sets and monetize it? And so finds a foreclosure, similar situation, right? It has potential, just the same way the church building was. And he started this journey of buying homes and getting them set up, getting them fixed up. And this is such a wonderful lesson for all of us, that what you've learned in the church, you can take those skills and put them into practice in the world. It's just so many different ways. And I think what I'm excited about with this episode is, this is not some of the ways that we've talked about before. This is a totally different, non-traditional way, but it works. So Gifford, a lot of people, when we hear real estate, and maybe this principle applies to other things, we think, but what if it fails? What if I get in and it doesn't work? There's a lot of fear, and fear isn't anything, right? With what if my podcast fails? But particularly for real estate, what would you say to someone who has been thinking about it? They have the plan, but fear is holding them back. What words would you say to that person?
Yeah, and I typically like to advise people with my own experiences. And for me, doing that project at church gave me the confidence, because we didn't fail there, because we know we were doing it for God. If you have that same mindset with your real estate investment or anything in life, right? If you pray about it, the old adage is that, if you're going to worry, don't pray. If you're going to pray, don't worry, right?
Yeah.
That applies as well. It sounded simple, but that applies as well. I had the confidence that God would bless me in that, because I saw him working in that church project. And so by doing that, I knew he was going to bless my endeavors from a real estate standpoint. As I told you before, that would mean I didn't have some fear, right?
Right.
But I was able to overcome that by saying, hey, you know what? Of course, you put me out here to do this, and you promised me that putting him first, doing his work, doing his ministry, knowing that I wasn't just doing this for monetary reasons, just to make money. I even looked at that as a ministry as well, right? Because I look at money differently than some people, right? And Pastor, let me just give you a little plug right now, right? While there was also another skill set that I developed while you were ministering us at that church, right? You had small groups, and I was able to facilitate a faith and finance class.
Yeah, that's right.
So every time I mentor people, I give them advice for real estate. I start them there first, right? Wow. Understanding, just like in faith and finance, that none of it is ours anyway.
Wow, that's good, Gifford.
It's all so God's. Good. That's God's building that you're buying. That was God's church, So if you have that mindset, that none of it belongs to us anyway, that's God's.
Wow.
We're just stewards
I
of
love
that
it.
blessing, right?
Yeah.
And so if we understand that, then we will approach it differently, right? That takes
Good.
away the fear. God
Yeah.
owned that anyway, right?
Yeah.
And so that's all aspects of life, especially when it comes to money, right?
Yeah.
None of it belongs to us, right? And so we have to change our mindset when it comes to that, and that helps us to understand that even if you make money on this project, you should be humble and understand that God give us those monetary blessings for 3 reasons: to take care of our basic needs, to help others,
Yeah.
and to carry on God's ministry.
That's
So
good.
whatever he blesses you with out here, even in your real estate investments, you should be able to take some of those resources and be able to turn that back into helping others, carrying on God's ministry. And so if you have that mindset, it takes away all the fear. It gives you your investment a purpose, right? And understanding from that standpoint. So yeah.
I love it. I love it. Gifford Fleming has been our guest today. Gifford, we're going to work together. We're going to come out with a course on how to do real estate God's way. Yeah, it's not out yet, but it will be out soon. No, Gifford, listen, I want to thank you. I want to thank your family just for how you guys embraced us while we were there in Memphis. And I wanted to bring you on the podcast to thank you, because this mindset of understanding that whatever you want to do in business, whatever you want to do in career, you can start in the church. I heard that from you first. So I wanted to come on here and give you credit. And I want to end with this, to tell someone what Gifford shared with us today. It's this: whatever you're doing, understand that you're a steward. It's from God, whether it's monetizing through real estate, whether it's monetizing through speaking. The gift is God's, and you using it to serve others and to increase your income and impact is you just simply being a good steward. Go out, take your ideas, and bring them to life.
Thank you for listening to the Monetize Your Ministry podcast with Kymone Hinds. For more information, visit our website at www.monetizeyourministrypodcast.com. That's www.monetizeyourministrypodcast.com. Find us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Please share this episode with someone who needs it. Let's increase our income and impact.